When people ask me about our experience at hospice, I have to say that it was a very positive one for our entire family. In January of 2008, my mother suffered a terrible injury that caused her to be in the hospital for 2 months and undergo several surgeries. And while we were so hopeful for several weeks that she would survive, unfortunately, after about 2 months, it was clear that she was not going to get well and come home. Very quickly, a nurse came out from hospice and assessed our mother and spent a long time with us talking about her situation and what we could expect, and somehow very gently broke the news to us again that she was not going to get well, she was not going to recover, and that she felt like that this would be a good time to move her to the hospice home. I had never been to the hospice home before, and when I drove up to visit her after she'd been there about 2 days, I went out to visit, and it struck me how beautiful it was. It's a beautiful place. And I walked in her room, my brother was with me, and we walked in, and she looked amazing. She was sitting up for the first time in over 2 months. She'd had her hair fixed, a manicure. She looked well, so much so that I asked her nurse, I said, I think she's going to get well. And she explained to me that this was a very common occurrence, that when patients come and receive that level of care, and are so well taken care of, that oftentimes they begin to look better and certainly feel better. And so while we knew she was not going to get well and come home, you could see the level of comfort. She was no longer in pain as she had been before, and she was so well cared for. It really gave us a sense of peace. People were wonderful to us because after spending 2 months with her in the hospital, we were kind of pitiful by then. We were tired and anxious, and we wanted her to get well, and of course she was not going to. And they just seemed to know these are two people who are exhausted, and they were just so supportive and so kind and so willing to explain, everything we were seeing and whatever we were experiencing. And in fact, one nurse, one morning when I called, one of the nurses told me, she said, it's 2:30 in the morning, and I have just talked with your brother. Perhaps the two of you should get some sleep. Your mother is sleeping just fine, but it's obvious you all need to get some rest. They were just so sensitive to what we were feeling. She was aware, she could talk, and I know she was very frightened in the hospital. I did not see, she was not frightened at hospice. I think that has to do with certainly the level of care, but she was never alone there. If we weren't with her, someone was, and that meant a lot to us and certainly to her. She seemed more relaxed and just at peace, and the chaplain said she's very much at peace, she's very comfortable, and so that just made us feel better, and you just switch gears. Now it's all about making those last days mean something, having her comfortable, having us prepare to let her go. And it was really, while incredibly sad, it was a beautiful experience. I did take the bulldog Bentley out that night, probably about an hour and a half or 2 hours before she died. And obviously there had been a change in her appearance and her breathing, and the nurses explained to me, this is what's happening. Yes, she's comfortable. This is nature. This is what happens. And while it's certainly a painful thing to see, in that you're losing your mother, you're losing a family member, they made it very peaceful. They made that transition easy for her and for us.